Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. My family owns dozens of mines, and I fell in love with poor student Peter for 8 years. From his studies to his career, when he couldn't afford to eat in college, I organized a competition to give him prize money. He was so devoted to his medical skills that he didn't understand social niceties. I had to flatter the hospital leaders and speak well of him. But when I collapsed from exhaustion in the operating room, he walked past me coldly and held the hand of a female patient. "Don't be afraid, I'm here," he said to her. So gentle but not towards me. 8 years of unrequited love is exhausting. I can't love him anymore. As I fainted in the operating room at 7 in the morning, I realized I had performed 13 surgeries in a row without eating all day. It was time for Peter to start his night shift, right? I wanted to lean on him, ride in his car, but it's painful. When I collapsed, the unanesthetized female patient was displeased. "If the doctor faints, who will operate on me? What if my finger breaks?" "It's just a tendon suture. Your hand won't break," I said weakly, slouched in the corner. Then the world slowly turned black and white. The next moment, I heard Peter's footsteps behind me. The man smelled antiseptic, towering almost to the ceiling, with the largest size of surgical gown seemingly too short, revealing a fair and thin forearm. I was excited, but he walked past me as if I were invisible, not wanting to risk contaminating himself. But would he care at least if his pet faints? Finally, the nurses lifted me out. When they lifted me up, I saw Peter holding the hand of the female patient, comforting her patiently. "Don't worry, I'll do this surgery." A man so aloof and proud, showing such tenderness. I loved him for 8 years and endured coldness. What am I to him? I heard that she wanted to call a reporter. The director had no choice but to assign another surgery to Sue Cannon, an internet celebrity who gets such privilege. Sue worked tirelessly, she should be dead. I woke up at 10 o'clock. The night shift nurses refused to leave, chattering around me loudly. When Lily saw me awake, she immediately helped me and offered me brown sugar water. "Feeling better? Don't worry, Peter has taken over that small surgery for you. Just relax." I smiled faintly and Lily handed me a key. "Peter is worried about you and wants you to rest in his duty room." Everyone laughed and said Peter was a clean freak. No one else was allowed in his room. He must have a special relationship with me to give me the key. I lowered my head and whispered, "If he's concerned, why doesn't he come and see for himself? The surgery must be over by now. Where is he?" Lily hesitated. "You know that internet celebrity is special?" Peter was held back by her after the surgery. "He must be anxious." I sarcastically replied, "Is there anyone more troublesome than me forcing Peter to do something he doesn't like? If he is unwilling, no one can force him. I loved him for 8 years. What more evidence do I need? Why did he bother pretending to care and giving me a key?" When I recovered, the nurses left one by one. I pushed open Peter's room door and smelled a sweet perfume. The small room of about 20 square meters was decorated simply in black and white, and it had a sweet fragrance. The neatly arranged bed had a few pink pillows, and a white desk concealed 2 small stools, creating a sense of splitting. All these were arranged secretly using the key I took from Peter. Whenever he found out, he would be angry for days. Now it must be disgusting for him. He had disliked me for a long time. So that day, I burned everything in his room related to me, leaving nothing, just like the emotional loss I suffered for 8 years. If he doesn't cherish it, I don't want it either. At noon I met Peter. He rushed out of the inpatient department, sweat beading on his exquisite face, out of breath. He stopped me in my tracks. "Why didn't you rest in the duty room?" I calmly looked away. "I want to go home." Peter frowned. "Did you touch anything in the duty room?" Annoyed by his questioning, I retorted, "I burned everything. Any problem?" Peter was stunned, his face filled with anger. "What are you trying to do?" There was a patient on the operating table at that time. I know the patient was more important. I interrupted, smiling as I asked, "Why are you in a hurry? Do you care about those things?" I took out my wallet, picked a credit card and stuffed it into Peter's pocket. "Buy new ones for yourself. Consider the rest as compensation for the emotional loss I gave you in these 8 years." Peter stared at me in disbelief. A rare sense of panic in his deep eyes quickly replaced by anger. A faint redness crept to his eyes, his voice cold and angry. What do you mean? I'm tired of playing. Love whoever you want in the future. It's none of my business anymore. Where did Peter and I go wrong? Maybe it was that I couldn't stand a female internet celebrity whose name I couldn't even pronounce. When I was in college, I had just started pursuing Peter. I had a fever of 40 degrees and just wanted a word of comfort, but he coldly mocked me as overly delicate. Later, when I followed Peter into orthopedics, I spent sleepless nights in the operating room holding a drill until my hands trembled, unable to even hold chopsticks. Peter never said a word of kindness, only scolding me for choosing a place not suitable for a girl. His love for me was miserly, but he was generous towards a stranger. Why? This man is not worth it. I rented a house close to Peter's at the beginning of the year to be able to hitch a ride with him every morning. The first weekend I distanced myself from him. I deleted all his contacts and drove a Porsche to work. That Monday at the clinic, Peter arrived late. Passing by my room, he stopped to look inside. His handsome face was cold, but his dark eyes glanced at my room multiple times. I looked at him coldly. What's up? Peter pursed his lips, his expression changing, and then turned and walked away. But at noon he showed up at my desk right on time and brought lunch and porridge. I thought I wasn't there, but as I knelt down to pick something up, I stood up and unexpectedly met his eyes. His eyes flickered. He quickly looked away and then put on that cold, indifferent look. Lily sent you lunch. You made it yourself, right? Your hands are all torn up. I bluntly pointed out to him. Peter instinctively tightened his right hand, awkwardly putting it in his pocket. But the next moment I said, too bad. I'm allergic to seafood and I hate beans and porridge even more. You see, I can remember all your favorite foods, but after 8 years you still don't even know what I'm allergic to. We really don't need to continue this, I said calmly. Peter looked at me solemnly, trying to explain something but couldn't find the words. A torrent of emotion surged in him, leaving him with nowhere to hide. I coldly smiled. I'm not hungry, take it away. It's fine, just throw it away if you don't want it. I don't like being manipulated by anyone. I used to make an exception for Peter, but now I've changed. Instead of throwing away the lunch, I took it to the inpatient department to see the internet-famous Rosa. As expected, Rosa didn't hold back in asserting her dominance, saying, You can see that Peter treats me differently, right? Sooner or later, he'll be mine. Why does a female doctor like you insist on staying in the orthopedics department? I know what you're thinking. I don't want my future husband and his colleagues always being targeted by cunning women. You can leave and I can ask around about which hospital you'd like to go to. Success is not guaranteed, but I'll try, Rosa said confidently. I slowly placed the lunchbox in front of her and asked with a smile, What if I don't leave? I haven't done anything wrong, so isn't it hard to just walk away? Do you know what would happen if I report you? Ignoring her, I handed her the lunchbox Peter had made. Rosa was surprised and immediately picked up the chopsticks, asking, Did Peter really make this himself? I smiled without answering, took out a pen, signed off on her examination reports, handed over the patient to Peter, and left them in the room. Peter's face darkened when he saw the lunchbox in Rosa's hands. I waited indifferently for the nurse to confirm the paperwork, ignoring the man's hollow and angry gaze. I just smiled and said, I'll leave you to chat. Enjoy your meal. Later, I heard that on that day, Peter threw away the lunch Rosa brought him, flew into a rage, and then went on to perform 13 surgeries flawlessly, appearing like a tireless robot with no one knowing the reason behind it. In the next morning shift, the sleepless Peter blocked me at the door. His eyes were red, and with a bitter tone he said, 13 surgeries. I almost forgot how I managed to get through them. I shouldn't have left you when you fainted. I'm sorry. I calmly looked at him and replied, Why didn't you act earlier? Don't you have a heart? Do you have to start over everything to understand how to make the right choice? Peter rubbed his forehead, his slightly hoarse voice trembling as he said, That day, it was just a fit of temper. And you misunderstood Rosa. Can we talk it over without rushing? I'm sorry. A surge of anger rose in me, and I slammed the door and left. But reality didn't allow me to easily cut ties with him. I refused to speak to Peter again, And he started working like a maniac, almost not eating or drinking, constantly staying in the operating room. The nurses were scared, asking if we had a fight. As a national award-winning prodigy and the top expert in the department, his self-destructive behavior made the chief come to me first. He ordered me to persuade Peter to apologize no matter what and stop him from self-harming. I chuckled in frustration. I had allowed myself to become a dependent part of him, so how could I expect anyone to look up to me? Peter had done it. He had truly disgusted me. When I stepped into his on-call room, there was still that sickly sweet scent of his perfume, even stronger than before. The whole room was cold and black and white when he was brought back from the operating room, lying alone in bed with a pale and fragile appearance. His hair was scattered over his pale, thin cheeks, exuding a sense of desolation and brokenness. I stood quietly at the door for a few minutes, but he remained asleep with a frown. I lost my patience. Have you had enough of your little cunning acts? If you have something to say it now. I can tell you're faking sleep, I said sternly. Peter clenched his right hand, sat up slightly, and handed me an envelope from the drawer saying, "Sorry, there's something I have to give you. I bought tickets to a concert through a friend. It's the singer you've mentioned many times. I've liked Alan since elementary school, and always wanted to go hear him sing love songs with someone special. What's wrong with you? I have no time. Do you have a fever or something? Why are you pretending to be affectionate now?" I retorted, feeling the emotional distance between us had gone too far. He didn't know that during the period he didn't see Rosa, she was haunting me every day. Rosa sat outside my clinic all day, staring at me greedily and bluntly but without saying a word. She followed me home, went through my trash, and I couldn't catch her. Even if I called the police, it's like she could find Peter through me. Your sweet little sister is right outside. Why don't you two go have fun together? I was so angry that my whole body was trembling. I left the duty room and found Rosa hiding in a corner, trying to eavesdrop. She was following me, coming up through the secure passage. I dragged the cowering Rosa into the duty room and shoved the concert tickets into her hands. Peter invited you to go see it. Couple tickets. Rosa always acts like a meek little bunny in front of Peter. She trembled at first, almost in disbelief as she picked up the envelope. The next moment, Peter reached out, snatched it away, and tore the envelope into pieces without hesitation. You said it, Alan's concert is only for loved ones to attend. So am I. I can't go without you. I smirked and glanced back at him with a hint of pity. Too bad I'm fine with anyone going with me. It's 2023. Do we still need to be bound to go to a concert? Who are you trying to show off to by tearing the ticket? Going to a concert, right? Then I'll have Alan come and sing for free. Let's all go listen, shall we? Rosa was on the verge of tears, but when she heard my words, a sly smile of success appeared on her lips. Can I? Peter, I also really want to listen to Alan's concert. Peter's dark eyes flashed with a hint of embarrassment as he slowly closed his eyes, pursed his pale lips tightly, and said nothing. Alan's concert was suddenly added, and for the first time ever it was free for everyone. The sports stadium was almost deserted on the weekend. Rosa wouldn't miss it as she was just a struggling actress, and it was hard for her to get a ticket to see Alan. Seeing my gaze wandering behind her, Rosa smiled confidently. Peter will come. He's just running late because of something. He promised to come with me. What exactly was I hoping for? Several nurses with cold faces went to close the door and chase people out. Peter suddenly rushed to my side like crazy, grabbed the oxygen mask for the patient, blocking me behind him. His arm was trembling slightly as if suppressing anger. He lowered his voice and ordered me to go change my clothes. Ignoring him, I turned to read the CT scan, racing against time to make a diagnosis. Sue, I'll say it again, go change your clothes. The next moment, because Peter was too busy talking, the patient whose medication was delayed slipped into a straight line on the heart monitor. Peter, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? In that moment, Peter finally reacted and hurriedly cooperated with the internal medicine team to resuscitate the patient. I stood there in shock for a few seconds, for the first time speechless towards him. At that moment there was a faint call from outside the door. Sue, are you busy? I looked over and to my surprise it was my dad. Dad just had a minor injury, so when you're not busy, give me a hand, will you? Is that young man your boyfriend? Doesn't seem to be doing well, my dad commented. Meanwhile, the patient next to Peter failed to be saved and was covered with a white sheet. The patient arrived already in a state of severe brain herniation, relying solely on the machinery with little room for recovery. But my dad, seeing the final moment, naturally thought it was Peter's fault and frowned, saying to me, "Why did he treat the patient to death?" Peter looked puzzled towards the door, and when his eyes met my dad's, he hesitated for a moment, not sure where to put his hands. I stood emotionless in between them and said, "Dad, I broke up weeks ago. Stop calling him that." After triaging the patients, the lightly injured ones like my dad were temporarily assigned to Peter for treatment. I had to settle him first and focus on participating in the critical care in the operating room. However, when I returned hours later, my dad was still sitting there as if nothing happened, although he kept saying things like he might as well go back home and rely on family. It would be embarrassing to go back that way. So I continued to be a doctor, not just because of Peter. "By the way, why do you smell like stew meat?" I mentioned. "Are you having an extra meal in the operating room? Let's get one for Dad." Lily and I both froze. The smell of stew meat in the operating room was something we couldn't discuss in detail. "Uncle, there is no extra meal in the operating room." Peter's cold voice came from behind. It seemed like he rushed back all the way, with sweatshirt hair clinging to his cheeks, his chest heaving. Once in the corridor without stopping, he circled back to my dad and helped clean the wound, explaining as he disinfected. "Boiling bones for disinfection is a common practice in surgery today. We had a patient undergoing a craniotomy, so the skull was boiled for a bit too long." Lily gagged and left, grateful for his blunt explanation. My dad paused, thinking, and his smile turned into an awkward expression as if he had eaten a fly. Probably not in the mood for meat lately. Unfortunately, Peter seemed oblivious to the awkward atmosphere. After finishing the bandaging, he politely asked my dad, "Sorry for the delay earlier. Are you hungry? Let me treat you to a late-night snack." 8 years later, Peter's emotional intelligence was still so low that it made people want to curse. I rolled my eyes and tried to usher my dad away, but my dad stopped me with a smile. "Never mind, Uncle. Let me treat you to a meal. Sue has been pampered, causing trouble for you guys in the hospital since her fiancé is on the way. Who else from your colleagues is here? Let's all have a meal together." As soon as he said that, both Peter and I were stunned. My dad innocently explained to me, "I just heard you broke up weeks ago. This thing was settled last week. It wasn't cheating, right? Once you meet him, if there's no problem, get married. He was found as per your request. Meet him later. He's a chef. You won't go hungry anymore." In an instant, Peter's face drained of color. While it was satisfying to see Peter being flustered by the unexpected fiancé, what was all this about marrying a chef? "A chef?" Peter looked down, the curve of his lips colder and more aloof than ice and snow, almost tinged with a trace of arrogance. "I'm afraid we can't get married. No matter whom you marry, you should always ask for Sue's opinion," my dad said casually. "He was found as per your request. If all the conditions are met, the marriage should happen." In the past, to impress my dad, I used to say that I changed men like changing clothes, only looking for someone handsome and smart, picking Peter's strengths as the criteria for a partner. I never expected that he would find someone exactly the same. "Why can't my daughter get married? If not someone else, is it going to be you?" My dad asked straightforwardly. "What mines do your family own? Which group do they belong to?" "We don't own any mines." "Uncle, you're right," said Peter with a sarcastic curve at the corner of his thin lips. He lowered his long eyelashes, showing no emotions in his eyes, only indifference. Because Peter came from a humble background in the 8 years, I rarely directly brought up the topic of money and meticulously counted every penny of his expenses, carefully maintaining his self-esteem. Now that I was gone, it seemed like this fragile thing was more brittle than glass, shattering at the slightest touch. My dad didn't even look up and told Peter, "What's the use of talking about money when there's none? It's a mismatch. It will only exhaust you." Although my dad said we were going to have a meal, he was actually called away by a phone call as soon as we stepped out of the door. He only had a scratch and had to rush back to deal with business matters. He had reserved a Japanese restaurant closest to the hospital, insisting that we must go. After sitting down, I casually smiled at Peter and said, It's much better now that you're here. I was unsure how to face that chef alone. Let's just treat this as a farewell dinner. The three of you should get to know each other and then go our separate ways, I suggested. But Peter seemed to struggle to speak, leaving only bitterness lingering in his mouth. I don't care. This is your business. I definitely tossed my chopsticks aside to push back against his passive-aggressive attitude. Peter cautiously reached out and held my hand. His profile remained stern, but the sharpness seemed to have faded. I'm sorry. I may have many flaws, but I do love you. I've just been too focused on other things over the past 8 years, occasionally neglecting you. I was afraid to stop, afraid that I wouldn't be worthy of you anymore once I did. Am I after your money? Do you really love me? Why have you never said a kind word to me and always favored Rosa? Peter's voice was hoarse and bitter as he explained. There's a reason for Rosa. It's always been your mistreatment of me, the problems between us, and yet you're trying to explain Rosa's situation. I interrupted. What does it matter if you haven't said a kind word to your girlfriend in 8 years? Peter stood frozen in place, looking unsure. Just when the tension had reached its peak, a playful voice chimed in from behind. Sorry, are you two lovebirds done fighting? When can I join in on this late-night snack? The man walking up behind us was tall, about 6'5", his somber black suit accentuating his lean waist. His face carried a cold, sharp edge, while his eyes had a hint of softness and warmth. No need to ask. Just by the resemblance, I could tell he was the blind date my father had arranged. The man sat down at the table smiling and asked Peter, Have you really put up with her for 8 years? How did you manage that? Please leave. Our private conversation isn't over yet, Peter responded, avoiding eye contact. The man smirked. All right, I'll leave. But settle the bill. It's $8,000 for this meal. How much longer are we going to talk? You've been unable to figure things out with your girlfriend after 8 years, so a few more minutes won't help, the man teased. Always so interested in someone else's fiancée, as if a few more minutes will make her yours. Peter's face grew darker with each word. Suddenly, he looked up with bloodshot eyes. Please, he said sternly. But the man calmly interrupted him. Just a reminder, your phone was charging at the front desk to save money. It rang just now. The caller ID said it's from your boss. You should check it. Peter was stunned for a moment, his body frozen, though his hand automatically reached for the table's edge, ready to stand up. A familiar routine. Present in body, absent in spirit. Mentor, boss, work, even Rosa. Anything was more important than me. I bowed my head in silence. The chef stayed quiet, and Peter confidently went to fetch his phone, not once looking back as he left. Before leaving, he paid the bill with 2 cards. The man in front of me suddenly spoke, catching my attention. I'm Henry. Apparently I meet your standards. Your father personally approved. I cringed, feeling awkward, and thrust a full cup of tea into his hands, silently begging him to be quiet. He skillfully caught the hot teacup, and as he lifted it, his charming face met mine. Just kidding. But unlike him, I have plenty of time to spend with you, he said, smiling gently. Your ex-boyfriend seems tight-lipped, but I'm different. And most importantly, I'm sincere. I stared at him blankly, not wanting to respond. Henry didn't rush, the warm lighting casting a gentle glow on his increasingly tender smile. Today doesn't seem like the right time to discuss this. Let's talk about something else. With that, he unbuttoned his suit jacket. Underneath was a neatly ironed gray pinstripe shirt, but with a strangely shortened hem adorned with frayed edges that looked comical. Henry tilted his chin towards me, the sharp jawline not intimidating but exuding a suave vibe. Are you trying to say that wearing these ragged clothes is what young people consider fashionable these days? I was taken aback, looking down at my shirt with its frayed hem, chuckling with a hint of a headache. But over the past few months, that was the only laughter I had. At my most embarrassing morning meeting, he didn't say a word. He coldly watched when I was treated unfairly. At my time of need, he was always nowhere to be found. Are you unhappy? This is all I can do now, even though I can't let the director find out. But you have everything you should have. I didn't know what to say, my heart was calm. I patted his shoulder quietly and left without saying a word. When I first joined, I cried and vented my grievances to Peter, but he said he couldn't do anything. He couldn't choose me on behalf of the director, and it was my own fault for joining the orthopedics department. He is willing to change now but doesn't know that I never asked him to help me from the beginning. I just wanted a comforting word, a supportive attitude. He never understood. After the meeting, I started my night shift. Henry has been picking me up lately. Once I got into the car, instead of starting the car, he asked me with a tilted head, "Are you unhappy? Did I waste your time again? Annoy you? Because of my dad, we have to pretend to get along together." I ignored him, closed my eyes, and leaned back on the chair to rest. Henry wasn't upset either. He opened a bag of chips, poured a latte, and handed me a homemade cake, all placed around me. We used to have a little stray cat at home. I didn't know what it wanted every day, so I tried little by little. "Do you like the cake I made? Do you like this toy? How about going to the hot springs in the mountains with me on the weekend?" "Oh, stop it." I opened my eyes, took some chips, and while eating them angrily, my eyes started to redden. Henry's big hand landed on the top of my head, lightly massaging a few times, and said with a smile, "I could see you were feeling wronged, although I don't know the reason. It's okay, it's their fault. They are really bad bullies to my little friend. I'll support you feeling embarrassed." I pushed his hand away, looked out the window, but tears kept rolling down. Some people, no matter how hard you try, even if you almost lay your heart bare to them, they just won't look, won't understand, while some others can capture your thoughts with just a subtle expression, without saying a word. On Friday night, I suddenly received a message from Leo. "Sue, do you know Rosa? Peter added her to the group a few months ago. Rosa just added us as friends, saying she's going to marry him. What's going on?" Leo was Peter's roommate from his school days. Peter, being proud and solitary, had only a few friends in total, even less so after starting work. On the other hand, seeing him being reserved and keeping to himself with colleagues in the past years worried me that he didn't socialize enough, so I took the initiative to reconnect Leo with him. Then Leo complained to me again. "It's been 6 years with our group. Peter didn't even add you in. Where did this Rosa come from? It's not hard to see who he favors openly, right? If he's saying he's getting married, why ask me? Represent me at the wedding, then I won't go." After sending the message, I transferred money to Leo and ignored him thereafter. Feeling a bit down, a chat box suddenly popped up from Henry with an ad. "Come to this hot spring resort. Play with cute puppies. Are you going? Really not going? If you don't, I'll go play with the little dog myself." I heard their golden retriever is especially soft and cute. Peter is allergic to cat hair, so strict that I couldn't even pet any small animals, let alone bring home any with fur. Because of him, all my hobbies became worthless. So that weekend, I accepted Henry's invitation and had a great time at the Hot Spring Hotel, posting 3 social media updates with location pictures of the animals. Even though it was for fun, Henry took the opportunity to introduce his friends to me one by one. Among them was a doctor who had seen my resume and talked to me a lot about surgery. He knew I was not happy at the hospital and forwarded an English article to me on his phone, asking for my opinion. Later, I found out his name was Edward, a top expert ranked top 3 domestically. Simply, he casually explained, "I felt that you weren't very happy at the hospital, so my doctor friends can chat with you. Would that make you happier?" Other than my parents, nobody cared about my feelings like this. Not even Peter in 8 years. So this is how being loved feels like. That night, Peter actually found the mountain resort. The summer night's breeze was gentle, but it made him look extremely disheveled, standing outside the yard of my room, smiling bitterly, with no color on his face and no hint of light in his eyes. Did I say I was getting married? Rosa took my phone and added herself to the group chat. A group chat I haven't spoken in for years and didn't know about. "Rosa won't bother you anymore. She can only be my little sister if she doesn't agree. Then even family is off the table." He tried to approach, but because I had cat hair all over me, he stopped outside, looking at me with despair. It felt like there was a suffocating hole in my heart, and only I could fill it. "I came as soon as I finished work and saw your message. I drove for 3 hours without a break. Is that clear enough for my explanation? What else do I need to do for you to forgive me? But I also have the right to refuse. I don't owe you anything and I don't want to wait for you in the same place." On the return journey, sporting 2 pronounced dark circles under my eyes, Henry didn't ask anything but gave me a small kitten when I got out of the car to go home. It was the one I had played with a lot the day before. Still hesitant if I should keep it, I made the decision for you. If you can't take care of it, just ask me. I have experience. People need to be straightforward. For example, hanging around in circles that don't belong to you only to realize all there is. Our heart takes you didn't need to face. I pondered his words silently, making a decision in my heart gradually. During the outpatient clinic next week, a middle-aged woman with leg pain took my appointment. She carried a Gucci bag but wore open-toed sandals. She described her symptoms in a confusing way, and after several checks showed nothing wrong, she decided to stay in the treatment room until noon. She closed the door with a creepy smile suddenly. "You're the treasure hidden by my son for 8 years, aren't you?" The eerie laughter sent shivers down my spine. I put down my pen, eyes full of vigilance. The middle-aged woman named Amy circled around my desk, playing with my pen and laughing cheerfully. She must be a rich girl from a wealthy family. "My son sent Rosa to Indonesia to study music for you, and he even wanted to send me to a psychiatric hospital. Our family has been torn apart all because of you. I'm his real mother. He pushed me to the streets like a shrew. I worked hard all my life and he ruined everything for me. All because of you. Why should I suffer?" I frowned and called security on her. Amy's tears dried up instantly. She sat down at my desk calmly and said, "I came here to tell you that no matter how dirty I am Peter's real mother. Since he destroyed everything for me, I will entangle you for the rest of my life. Let's see what happens when you marry into our family." "Who told you I am going to marry your son, Peter?" I coldly sneered and looked at Amy with pity. "Does your family's business have anything to do with me? You will marry him. Once Peter decides something, no one can change it. He is a lunatic." Amy stared at me with her dry, yellow fish-like eyes. And just as the security guard rushed in, she suddenly took out my pen from her pocket and viciously stabbed it into her own leg. "The doctor hit me. Sue doesn't want to treat me. Let me go." Even though it was lunchtime, there were still many patients waiting in the corridor. Amy crawled inside the room, screaming and twisting, and the incident was recorded and posted online, causing a big uproar. The hospital urgently held a meeting and decided to suspend my work, issue a statement to calm public opinion, and wait for the investigation. The leaders were not pleased, and in the ward, they stopped all the doctors from doing rounds and publicly announced the news. Before I could say anything, Peter darkened his face and slammed the stethoscope on the table. "Peter, I heard that your mother got hurt. Rest assured, Auntie is being treated in our hospital. We all understand your feelings. I will handle it," Peter said coldly, his dark eyes showing a hint of anger. He repeated to me, "I will handle her." I shrugged indifferently. "You better do." I packed up my things and went home on suspension that afternoon. However, Hendry's assistant was waiting for me downstairs and directly took me to participate in a 5-day medical forum recommended by Edward. Interestingly, the hospital director sat beside me during the forum and looked at me as if he had seen a ghost. A week later, when I returned, I heard the news of Amy deliberately hurting someone and getting arrested. It was Peter who reported her, whose right hand had been severed. I heard that Peter deliberately provoked Amy, making her think I was her attending physician. So on the day of rounds, Amy took out a sharpened lid of a lunchbox and had ill intentions. Peter pushed aside a lily disguised as me and with his right hand, he forcibly took a hit, severing arteries and nerves naturally. He took this opportunity to send Amy to prison by his own hands. "I will handle her. I will not let anyone hurt you." Later, the director and the deputy director of neurosurgery personally operated on Peter for over 8 hours in the operating room. It was said that the postoperative effect was not as expected and a promising surgical talent might have been lost. After this incident, the hospital's attitude toward me softened, and the director personally sent me a message asking me to go to the ward and comfort Peter. I promptly blocked him. I waited for a long time but did not receive any notice from the hospital to clear my name and return to work openly. Instead, I received something unexpected which was truly heart-wrenching. Are Peter's matters related to me? Later, Lily messaged me that her mother made dessert for me, so I decided to go back to the hospital. As soon as I entered the department, I could hear the buzzing of discussions despite it being a public holiday. Most of the department was there. seemingly helping Peter set up the room for Sue. You have again chosen to sacrifice family and jeopardize your future. If I were her, I'd be so touched. I envy you, even though I'm not a woman. I can't do this for my wife. Have you thought about how to propose? I'm really afraid Sue will be so excited that she'll faint. She will definitely agree, don't worry. After a while, Peter's voice, cold and slightly embarrassed, came through. I think she will agree. As soon as he finished speaking, I expressionlessly pushed open the door. Instantly, everyone stopped what they were doing and focused their gaze on me. Peter's right hand was in a cast, looking much better, and he was all dressed up, holding a bouquet of flowers, the type of roses I detest the most. The director smiled and confidently said next to him, Sue, the hospital will speak up for you in that matter. You can rest assured. You were wrongly accused. Of course, it has to be cleared up. If the hospital doesn't speak up, I will personally hold them accountable. The director's smile froze for a moment, then he said, Let's not talk about this on such a happy occasion. From now on, you'll accompany Peter and focus on research. He hasn't let me down, so why should I step back? Everyone sensed the hostility in my tone this time. Those who were perceptive had already quietly backed away. Peter revealed a rare tenderness as he slowly approached me and said, I cut him off immediately. I'm here to submit my resignation letter. Take a look at it. Peter's face turned pale in an instant. The director, shaken, dropped his hot ash onto his pants, burning his thigh. You want to resign? Peter asked in disbelief. After all the effort you've put in? I coldly laughed. How is this any of my concern? Did I ask him to do this? Are you trying to morally blackmail me? Peter is just a madman immersed in his own world, self-righteous and self-absorbed. Is Peter proposing to me? It's strange. Who is he proposing to? Are there any single people here? Well, I'm not single. I have a fiancé. As I finished speaking, I turned and left. Peter only hesitated for a second before abandoning everything to chase after me. He still held the roses in his left hand, and with his right hand in a cast, he could only manage to grab my clothes with his few functional fingers. He lowered his eyes almost humbly and begged me, Can you stop? Listen to me one more time. I truly love you. What else should I do for you to give me a chance? I calmly turned around, my icy eyes filled with detachment. But Peter seemed to have caught onto a glimmer of hope again, eagerly saying, I love you. I replied firmly, I no longer love you, Peter. I have indeed realized that I don't love you anymore. From the day we met until now, you have never understood my heart. You don't know what I want. You thoughtlessly gave everything, never once asking if I needed it or if it would trouble me. For a whole 8 years I have not felt loved, not even now. Just like the rose you carefully selected for the proposal, it's a flower I detest the most. Can you please stay away from me? The day I left was also my formal farewell to this hospital. Glancing back from downstairs, I could faintly see Peter's desolate expression in the third-floor window, as if all his strength had been drained from him. He happened to be looking at me too, his once sharp features now colorless, a despairing smile hanging on his lips, the once beautiful eyes now empty, devoid of any light, just endless emptiness. He looked at me for a few seconds, covered his eyes with his hands, tears silently streaming down, quivering as he mouthed to me, Goodbye. I calmly withdrew my gaze ahead. In the parking lot, a flashy Ferrari was flashing its lights at me. Henry was in the car, and we had agreed to go to France for a trip after resigning. Despite the marriage that my family had forcibly arranged, I asked him why he liked me. We had only known each other for a few months, so it shouldn't be much love. Henry gave me a meaningful look and said softly, I prefer marriage before love. If you don't mind, you can teach me how to love slowly. After all, we have our whole lives ahead of us. But I must say, I'm just a chef at the moment, and I only want to cook delicious meals for you every day to keep you happy. He made me laugh. A billionaire chef? The food must be pretty good, right? Looks like it's time to start a new chapter in life.